there's a reason people come to me to write their briefs and to argue their cases. And I can't abdicate that role to a machine, to technology like that. It doesn't work. The judges know my voice. And I mean that from a literal standpoint where they can read it off a page and they'd know if it wasn't me.
Hi, and welcome back to the Main Street AI podcast. This is Stephen with Satori Coach IO, and today I'm joined by Dan Siegel, who runs the law offices of Daniel Siegel out of Havertown, a suburb of Philadelphia, where he's been practicing for over 40 years. His firm handles wills and estates, personal injury, workman's comp, and Social Security disability. But what makes Dan unusual is his second practice. He represents other lawyers. He writes their appellate briefs, argues their cases, handles disciplinary representation when they get into trouble, and provides ethical guidance to help them avoid it. He also chairs the American Bar Association's Law Practice Division, which covers how attorneys actually run their firms, and that division sponsors Tech Show, the largest non-commercially sponsored legal education expo in the country. Dan started practicing before computers existed. He was automating offices by 1991, and he's been watching AI enter every corner of legal practice with the eye of someone who's seen every wave of technology wash through the profession. In this conversation, we talk about why the higher-level work of lawyering can never be abdicated to technology, what he's seeing on the disciplinary side as AI misuse cases begin to work their way through the system, and why his judges can literally recognize his voice on a page, which is something no AI has been able to replicate. Let's dive in. Dan, thanks for joining.
Thank you very much for having me.
Excellent. Please give us a high-level overview of what you do with the firm.
Okay. We're a Havertown, which is really suburban Philadelphia-based firm. We deal with a lot of different things, actually. For what I'll call the public, we have a large wills and estate type practice, and personal injury, workers' comp, and Social Security disability. Done that for all of those for more than 40 years. I also have a niche specialty in which I represent other lawyers. I write their appellate briefs, I argue their cases for them, and I handle disciplinary representation if they get into trouble or avoiding trouble, and provide ethical guidance to them. So it's sort of like twofold practice, public and sort of private for the lawyers.
Right. So I noticed that from your website, and is that kind of a common thing, or is that very unique?
Oh, it's very rare.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I know lawyers who represent attorneys, that there are, but they're usually just that. But I'm a local attorney, so, people know me locally as well. But I practice throughout the whole state. So it is different. And because of that, I tell people when I've hired in the past, this office is different from any other office. You never know what you're going to be doing from day to day. Mm-hmm. Could be a major work injury case, or it could be John Smith has disciplinary trouble and we have to file a response or whatever we do. So yeah, it's very unusual, and that's why I like it.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So one of the questions I often ask, just to get the more for like an educational perspective, is for people that aren't the attorney, someone who might come to you for legal assistance. What are some things that they might underestimate or misunderstand about the work you do? Maybe you can answer that both for both aspects of the firm. So, your non-attorney clients, but also maybe for your attorney clients.
Well, it's really the same for both.
Okay.
We educate our clients. A lot of what I have found over the years is clients don't understand. They might be in the workers' comp system. They might have had an accident, or they're in the disciplinary system. It really doesn't matter. They don't really know how it works. So we help explain that to them. And we can do that because my office, we have 2 attorneys and a paralegal. They're not going to get bureaucracy and go through, teams of assistants and things. We give them that information. A lot of times we have handouts for them because, it's no different from a doctor's office. You go there, the doctor tells you all these things, and you walk out the door and say, well, wait, I don't remember that. So we have a lot of writing. So a lot of that's on our website, actually, particularly for attorneys on the disciplinary side. But, for everyone, they, even a will, people, we explain what we draft so that they understand what they're doing, because that's important. And, these are usually people who come to us, are in situations, where things are in flux. And I don't want to be another thing in flux. I want to be the calming influence, rather than another, oh my God, now the lawyer. And, my office isn't the typical, suite in an office building, and it's very sterile. My office is in an old house, that we rent, and it's very, it's nice to come into. It has a lot of memorabilia in it, so it's not just a sterile environment where you're just afraid to talk.
Gotcha. Um, One of the areas, obviously, that is definitely in flux right now is is the boom of technology, and it's in every facet of society now, every
Mhm.
different industry. Obviously, we're very interested in what's going on in terms of the legal domain. How do you see emerging tech and specifically AI trending right now in the legal sphere?
Well, it's interesting because I've always been an early adopter.
Mhm.
Even though when I graduated from law school, there weren't computers. They came out 2 years later, the Commodore 64, and we were automating the office I worked in as early as 1991. So I've been involved in that throughout my career. What we have now, instead of sort of baby steps, is a much larger step. Uh, AI has changed things in ways nothing else had. And that's not to downplay the past, but it is different. And we've been an adopter. We do it carefully. We do it ethically. And I'm involved in that in a lot of different ways. I chair the American Bar Association, their division called the Law Practice Division, which is how attorneys run firms. And so one of those areas that we cover is technology. And that's what got me involved in that division. And we sponsor Tech Show, which is the largest non-commercial sponsored CLE, continuing legal education, and expo in the country. But it AI has gotten into every area of law, and it's only going to get deeper in and more, hopefully even better than it is, because it does a lot of things really well, but a lot of things it can do better.
And how are you currently using it within your firm?
We use it. It doesn't write our briefs, for example. But today I'm preparing something, and the concluding paragraph, I had it, but I didn't like it as much as it could be. And I used an AI tool, and it improved it. But the brief itself is an AI. It helps. We use it to automate workflows in our office. We've used it. We use it for document review. We use it for sort of assembling information, timelines. You know, I write a lot of briefs, and as part of that, there's information in there that often lends itself to a table rather than just 20 lines of text. Well, AI can make tables and show things faster than I ever could. And it's really good. And as a practical matter, I have some issues physically, and AI works to help accessibility issues as well. So I use it for that. And hopefully, we make it easier with clients for everything we do. But it's touched practically every area of our practice one way or another.
Yes, very smart to be an early adopter, and you're right. It is everywhere, and it's only going to increase in terms of adoption, whether people like it or not.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, it is. It's a whole new ballgame. It's exponential, as you said, not baby steps.
Yeah.
Where do you think, if we were to pan out 5 years from now? And I know no one has a crystal ball, but where do you think things are moving insofar as what will look much different as a result of this technology and what might still look about the same in the domain?
Well, I think if you look at the technology, and you have to look at it also partly from an ethics standpoint for lawyers, which we have to deal with the rules of professional responsibility. It's interesting. I think you're going to see in offices um, some use of AI that may replace some people, particularly the ones who do a lot of the general task work that can be sort of automated. Um, I don't think it will ever replace the top level lawyers and good lawyers, uh, and it hasn't so far. There's a reason people come to me to write their briefs and to argue their cases, and I can't abdicate that role to a machine, to technology like that. It doesn't work. It The judges know my voice, and I mean that from a literal standpoint where they can read it off a page and they'd know if it wasn't me. And I think that's common across a lot of things. It is being used more generally for lawyers to do legal research. Some of that research and the document things it does and review of documents is really tremendous. But still, the lawyers who just accept what they get without taking the responsibility to read and make certain that all the quotes are right, and other things are getting into trouble. And I don't know that there's an answer for that. So I would say in 5 years, getting back to your question, you're going to see maybe some, or definitely, I think, office staff who may be gone, and maybe it could affect starting attorneys, but you still have to be able to do the research. And I don't believe you can abdicate it all to technology. It helps a lot. It cuts time. But the higher level lawyering, whatever your whatever the specialty is, it doesn't matter whether it's me who's essentially a litigator or someone who does transactional work. The clients are coming to them to give their special spin, their whatever they have, and that's not going to go away. I just don't think you can ever take away the person in the law, and those who tried have gotten into trouble.
Yes, absolutely. And this does seem to be the consensus of, the higher level, just so much context and human components and experience that comes into play that can't be abdicated to the tech. So basically, I think most are in agreement with you. I am interested, since you do represent attorneys who have disciplinary matters, and some of those, as you just cited, have been around misuse of AI or irresponsible use of AI. Have you represented anyone that was the case?
Not yet.
Not yet, but you see it coming, maybe.
I do a lot of speaking on AI.
Hmm.
I do a lot of speaking generally, in mostly continuing legal education courses all over the country. I do a lot of writing, and a lot of the writing has featured AI. We haven't seen that many comparatively disciplinary cases involving AI, but they tend to take, unless it's a judge doing it to a lawyer, that gets the publicity because judges have to do it immediately. But that's a different animal from when lawyers are called before. In Pennsylvania, it's called the disciplinary board. It could be called ethics counsel in other states. That takes a while to sort of move through the system. So there's a lag. At some point, you're going to see it. I'm sure, and I'm sure I will have in cases involving lawyers who've done it, but it hasn't hit yet. You know, when you look at the cases, the lawyers who've gotten into trouble are almost all judicial trouble. In other words, before a judge. There haven't been yet the disciplinary cases, and that's consistent with it tends to lag. There still aren't that many lawyers who get into trouble using other technologies. And yet technology's been around for a long time. I had someone who within the last year got into trouble for the way he used an adversary's social media information in their divorce litigation for his client. And that was an interesting issue because I really didn't think what he did was wrong, but disciplinary counsel did. And that happens. I'm not disciplinary counsel, but it took a long time for me to get the first sort of social media case. And the way it resolved, it's not public anyway. And that happens too. A lot of disciplinary cases resolve. But I think you're going to see it for the more egregious these situations that lawyer, if they do, if they write the whole, have the whole thing, pull whatever brief written by AI, they're going to get into trouble if it's citing false cases or citing cases for something other than what it stands for, because that's much more common. That's laziness. When you don't check your cites and read every, case that's involved in whatever you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very interesting to see what's going to happen here. I'll pivot over to talk about your firm a little bit more. What would you say that you do exceptionally well that maybe sets you apart from others that are in your same domain, like in terms of the workman's comp and things like that?
Well, we write really, really well. And that means historically, comparatively, the judges know our writing. They trust us. We win more cases for them. And we advocate for them because despite all the courtroom scenes you see on TV, and cases do go to court, most are decided on the papers beforehand. And if that writing isn't good and doesn't cover it, you're not going to be there to try the case or to settle the case. And a lot of lawyers come to us because of the writing, and so do the client. The clients don't know it as much, but we use that skill. My other attorney is an exceptional writer as well, and so we use that, and we do that extremely well. And we probably spend 3/4 of the day writing because of so many cases, and that's what we do. So it really does make a difference.
Right. You said, you've got a career here spanning over 40 years. What stage of growth are you in right now with your firm? And then do you have a target for where you'd like to get to in the next 12 months or so?
Well, we've been 2 attorneys and a paralegal for quite a few years. And we generally have a law clerk who comes in the summer, who does a lot of different things. And I think that's pretty much where we're going to stay. We are trying to even emphasize more of our estates and wills practice and things, but we're happy at a level where if we grow, it'll be another attorney. I'm not looking to be a bigger fish. I like what we do. We do it well, and we're comfortable with our arrangements because I run a flexible law firm. Both my associate and my paralegal only work 4 days a week. They can take care of whatever they need with their families. So we're stable. But a lot of the growth, even with AI, can be done using AI rather than expand another lawyer or a paralegal. especially the wills and estates part. And I really like doing that because that's the neighbors here. I've lived in this community now for 40 years. I've been an elected official in the past for 13 years. I really like the community, and that was one of the reasons I opened here. Um, and, we have a limited space that we can move, that we can grow. So I just want to do that till whenever I retire, which I don't have any plans to do anytime soon.
Um, if you so you've had a great career here. If you, given the fact that you're happy with where you're at right now, if you could point to one thing, like wave a magic wand and fix anything that might be an impediment to what you're looking to do with the firm, what would that be?
Well, that would be that we can still be a little more efficient, um, sort of with the intake of clients, and
Hmm.
we're actually working on that, because we want to just get things into our workflow quicker. We do for some areas of the law, and some things are very easily assimilated, but we get a lot of calls during the day, and we're we actually are working with now a part-time receptionist who would answer calls and do some of the paperwork because we
Hmm.
want to get to the clients faster, because once they're in our system, then they just move along very nicely. But we really, I'd rather all the calls be answered with a live person rather than coming to our voicemail or something. Someone who can then immediately, oh, you're a client. If you want a will, well, here's what we do, and we send out a questionnaire, send that out right away, uh, so that there's no lag. That's the area because we use technology tremendously. We use a lot of it in our in everyday practice. But you still have to get them into the technology. They call on the phone, they're not in there. And so that part of it really, I would like to tighten, and we're working on doing that now.
Um, where I like to always end the arc of these conversations is on the human level. So,
Mhm.
what would you say is your personal big motivating why for what you do?
I like to help people. Um, that's why I do this. If I Yeah, yes, I like to make money and have an income. But if I really wanted the bigger income, I would have stayed in Philadelphia,
Hmm.
where I worked, practiced for 20 years. And it's only a couple miles away, but it seems like sometimes it's light years away. But I really like helping people. My father was the neighborhood dentist, and he stayed in his neighborhood where he was born
Mm.
most of his career until late in life. Um, and I sort of have that same feeling, no matter who it is, you want to help them. And that's what I love doing. And the fact that I can do it with my writing, because truth be told, my dream was always to write novels and be on the
Mm.
New York Times bestseller list. And I've written 17 books, and 16 of them are for lawyers, and one is like a biography.
Mm.
They're not the bestsellers that are on the New York Times bestseller list,
Yeah.
but I have used my writing skills, um, for the clients and helping them, and that brings me a lot of satisfaction. When we win a Supreme Court case in Pennsylvania, we're jumping for joy here.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
the motivator. We love doing that, and when you do whatever you love, doesn't matter whether it's you or me, it doesn't seem like a chore.
Right.
And I always tell people, you have to, as Phil Jasner, who was a late, he was my neighbor, and he was an award-winning basketball writer for the Philadelphia Daily News. He's in the Basketball Hall of Fame, and he said it best: "Follow your passion, but be practical." And I that's sort of what I've done, or I've tried to do that. And Phil had the luxury, or he was able to cover professional sports on a daily basis, which I would have loved. But he also said you have to be practical. And that's what I've tried to do, because I would have loved being a sports writer just covering the Phillies.
Yeah. Excellent. Very good stuff, Dan. If people are interested in finding out more about your services, whether it's attorneys or clients for your other areas like the workman's comp or wills and estates, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Well, they can call still the old fashioned way, 610-446-3457. And we also have a website that is just my name, Daniel J. Siegel, SIEGEL.com. And they can contact us there. And we're happy to meet them and take care of them.
Great. Very, very nice. Thank you so much for joining today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.